My name is Lolo Puzzlo, and this is Media Delta. Alright, so we have an interesting thing for you today. Namely, normally we do try to focus stuff here that is, movies and TV shows that are based on video games. However, some things that I feel we kind of need to watch because they themselves influence games without, being a licensed game. Sometimes you just have a piece of medium that is so influential. Like, kind of think of, Aliens outside of, the fact that it had games. The fact that Aliens was such a inspiration to sci-fi in general. This is another movie that's like that to a much smaller extent. And a much lesser known movie. And this one is basically a movie that, if you've seen it, you can see the fact that it was kind of a movie that was incredibly influential on the brawler genre of video games. In fact, this movie is explicitly been cited as by the developers of Final Fight as an inspiration for the game.
It's honestly pretty shameless.
It is yeah.
Yeah, when you really think about it, it's pretty obvious.
It's also been influential for a number of other things, which we'll probably get into a little bit later on. But yeah, the reason we're taking a look at it is because this is an incredibly influential movie on a very specific genre. And the movie we're taking a look at is the 1984 Walter Hill movie Streets of Fire, which is a movie that bombed quite hard, actually, at the box office, which is why it's unfortunately not as well known. This had a budget of $14.5 million. It only made $8 million. So not a little bit more than half, but that's still not good.
Especially those numbers.
Yeah. This movie might have had a little bit of a troubled production. But, yeah. So I guess before we actually get into it, I think we should probably state that I am not the only one who watched this. So please introduce yourselves in alphabetical order.
Hi, I'm Axe, and I'm here for the horrifying visage that is young Willem Dafoe.
Hi, I'm Carnival, and I'm so thoroughly impressed how much a single movie has just captured a genre.
Hi, I'm Risen, and I'm here just for the sledgehammer duels.
Hi, I'm Torpid Typist, and I'm going nowhere fast.
Indeed. Yes.
It had to be done.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is an interesting movie. Namely that another thing about it that is kind of notable is the fact that it's in the tagline of the movie. This is listed as a rock and roll fable. Although it is not quite a musical, so to speak. Music plays.
There is music, but it's not a musical. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Music plays.
There are extended music numbers that could just very well double as music videos.
Yes. It is very musically focused, even with the plot. Although I think that's just a coincidence. And yeah,
it was really good watching a woman strip to fucking rockabilly.
Yeah, that was weird. But yeah.
Have you ever listened to Reverend Horton? He'd strip for that too.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
So I think we should probably, just get into general impressions. So before we actually get into it and figure out who gets to talk first, who here has seen it beforehand?
Yo.
This was my first time.
Okay. So in that case, since this is your, since you are the one that has not seen it, it is your first. Let's go with you. So, Axe, what are your first general impressions of this movie?
Oh goodness. It's hard to express how I feel about this without kind of going over every single thing and then kind of making it hard for everybody else to talk about. So I'll do my best. But I think this is a very interesting piece of cinema. Not only for the fact that it serves as inspiration for a lot of games that I've actually played and enjoyed. Final Fight was a staple in my house on the SNES.
Literally, Mike Hagger's outfit is based off of one of the main characters' outfits at one point.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
was well, I don't know if it was based on Willem Dafoe because he did the whole,
No.
but I
It-
think it was Cody. I think it was
Yes.
Yeah,
based
it was
off
Cody when he was in the
Cody's.
apartment and shirtless.
Yeah, shirtless
Mhm.
with the suspenders and shit.
Yep.
But just how and watching this and thinking about a lot of the brawlers that I played, it's striking almost seeing where those inspirations come from, even the ones that are basically lifted wholesale. But you still get like they're still unique enough in the games that it's not just a one-to-one. It's not like Clock Tower to
Yeah, the games
Phenomena.
have dominatrixes, unlike this.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Where
Well,
were my
innovation had to-
dominatrixes with whips? What the fuck? This movie sucked. But
The innovation
no,
had to come somewhere, X.
yeah. But
Mhm.
it's also interesting because it has three well-known actors: Willem Dafoe, Rick Moranis, and Bill Paxton. And again, like we're going back to really old films. We're going into old media, and it's just so weird because you're so used to seeing them as they are now, and you just see them as their younger selves. And obviously, Bill Paxton, as we mentioned during Aliens, has passed away. Um, but it's so interesting to see how they've you know aged and how their actual acting has grown or had grown.
Or how Willem
Um,
Dafoe has always looked like a fucking gargoyle.
he's
Mhm.
he's always been just a very striking figure in
It's
his
very
own way.
powerful, like, facial features.
But it's also
He's
interesting
strong.
because you mentioned during the watch through as I rip an earbud out of my ear. It's weird to hear Willem Dafoe's young voice because it's not quite as intimidating. It's not quite as punctuated and it's not quite as aggressive as his voice is now. Dafoe
It's
has
not as gravelly.
yeah, it doesn't
Mhm.
have it's not distinctive, which is quite interesting. Willem Dafoe just does not have a distinctive voice in this movie, but you look at him in like the new Spider-Man film, for example, his very distinctive voice. You can tell right away it's him. So that was also interesting. The fight choreography, I didn't think it was all that great. Uh, as funny as the sledgehammer scene was, I wasn't feeling it. And that's kind of how I was with the movies. Like I love the music numbers. Music numbers had me going. I was like, fuck yeah, I can just do this. I don't even need the rest of the film. Just leave me here. Um, but like it felt there was a weird feeling I got with all the actual like plot points. The fights and things like that didn't feel like they had any gravity to them. There was no immediacy, there was no urgency, at least as I felt. They just kind of were like they almost felt like they were there to just push the plot to the next point.
I mean,
Um
I would argue that the initial assault on the biker bar was pretty well done, but like the
Mhm.
fucking sledgehammer duel was out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too is I thought it was kind of weird because the start of the film has all of that. It has the rescue and everything. And now we've got a lot of downtime where they're kind of like, all right, well, what do we do next? Well, we probably got to kill, Raven and get rid of the bombers and all that. But it's like there's this weird lull in the center where instead of like the movie building up to the rescue and then building up to the final fight, it was kind of just like here's the start, here's the middle, I guess, and here's the ending. At least for me, that's how it felt.
My issue with the lull is more the fact that a lot of that lull is spent shitting on the main character for really weird things, like the fact
Yeah.
that he wanted money to rescue his ex.
Yeah, there's a bit of weirdness to it, and the other thing too is, and I mentioned it a bunch of times, is it never felt like people were talking to each other. It felt like people were literally trying to punch each other with their words. Everybody's just angry and on edge. And I guess it would be you could consider that part and parcel for them because of where they live. Where they live sucks, and it's run by shitty gangs, and everybody's on edge all the time. But even still, just like it doesn't let up a bit. It doesn't let the characters sort of let loose and feel like they're having a good time or enjoying the presence of each other. It's almost like they're just angry that anybody's near them.
Yeah,
Um,
I will say that, yeah, is a lot of the dialogue is just like very, very terse,
Yeah.
is how I describe it.
everybody's
Very,
everybody's a badass. Everybody's about ready to kick somebody's ass. And
even fucking Rick Moranis, who sucks
Yes.
the whole movie.
yes, even Rick Moranis. So it's just, and I'm not trying to say this is a bad film by any stretch of the imagination, but there are just little things that I think if they had tweaked the dialogue to be a little more human and a little less punchy, if they um made the rescue a little later in the film and let us lead up into it and give us just sort of like give us our backstory, give us our inspiration for why we're doing this so that we can rah the team to do the things. And again, like you said, the final fight comes out of nowhere because the gist is that Raven wants to fight Cody because he stole Ellen away because he had kidnapped her. So he wants a showdown with Cody. So the police are like, "Well, no, Cody, you're gonna leave town, and we'll stop Raven." And then Raven goes, "Haha, I've got lots more people, haha." And then Cody arrives, and then they fight. The
Okay.
thing about that fight is when you think of like the final battle between the good and the bad, usually, and it's not always, but usually there's a sense of isolation, right? You have the bad guy and you have the good guy, that's it. And they're locked in a fight together. Good guy doesn't necessarily have a lot of backup, if any at all. But in this scene, there's every police officer in the city, every citizen in the city with a gun. So the stakes of this fight don't feel quite as elevated because
he may as well have not been there.
Yeah, well, because if Cody loses, who gives a shit? They'll just shoot him and it's over. You know?
The other thing, too, is that he specifically left town on a train to save Ellen Aim, because that is her full name, Ellen Aim, which is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, he left town with her, and then he turns back and tries talking to this train lady, and she's like, "No, I'm not going back. It sucks there." And all of a sudden, he's back there less than a minute later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just the build up and the setup to the final fight just didn't feel, like I said, there's just things happen and they're fun, they're exciting, but they don't give you that same, like if we go back to Hardcore Henry, the fights give you this sort of sense, whether it's a sense of urgency to the fight, you're worried about the main character, or just a little bit of a little adrenaline boost, like, yeah, this is exciting, all right, cool. The fight scenes in this movie just kind of felt flat. They felt flaccid.
I think it's because the choreography was a bit stiff, especially during the sledgehammer duel.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was very it was very weird, and everybody seemed kind of wobbly. And but yeah, no. I mean, overall, this is a fantastic film. It's a very enjoyable film, and its biggest strength is its music numbers. The soundtrack is one of the best film soundtracks I've ever heard. I enjoyed it a lot, and anytime the music kicked in, I was grooming. I was grooving to it. I loved it a lot.
It's also the source of a song that a lot of people don't realize was made for this film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this movie does. That's the other thing too. Is just like this is such an interesting, fascinating piece of media, and it is such a shame to learn that it didn't do as well as it probably should have. Maybe this film was a little too ahead of its time. It's not a thinking man's film. It's not a deep film, but its ideas and the way that it was executed, I feel, deserve a lot more credit than it got. And I think that's a good place for me to kind of let somebody else kind of slide in and give their thoughts. And just my general thinking is it's a good movie with a few things that could have used some tweaking.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. So in that case, who wants to go next? I know Risen Carnival, we have not heard much from you yet, if you want to go next.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So I again thoroughly enjoy the movie. Very nice to just see. It's always fun to see movies that just I see. This is where this entire thing come from. Like Escape from New York in Metal Gear, and Jacob's Ladder in Silent Hill. It's nice thing like, yes, this is where this is from. I get it. I definitely agree with that. Just fight choreography in general. It's like I'm gonna be completely honest. Hollywood traditionally, Hollywood in a lot of times is, with a very few exceptions, is just really bad at fight choreography. But that's a discussion for another film.
There is actually something kind of interesting about the fact that the last movie that Walter Hill actually did, well, I'd say one of the last major films that Walter Hill did before this movie, was The Warriors, which is a very much a fight-heavy movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, that checks out. I haven't seen The Warriors, but that's definitely like, I still think The Warriors, from what little clips I've seen, has a bit better fight choreography than this does. But I think the main draw here is that, aside from the music, which also is like yes, I see, this is also where you got this from, Proto-Man. But like, it's interesting, and it's from an aesthetic level of just like a good way of doing retrofuturism, because it's very clearly intended to be a grungy 50s kind of feel to it, but very much still maintains that this is the 80s.
In the far-flung future of 1950X.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's pulpy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very pulpy, and a feel that I wish would do more, but we'll never see this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's in filmmaking.
A very grungy, grimy 50s aesthetic, which is pretty unique, and I quite like it.
Yeah. Like, especially since it's like a throwback to the 50s that's not like, Happy Days or like American Graffiti.
Just pleasantly worshiping at the idea of a past that never existed.
Yeah.
I think that's it for the general impressions.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I can.
Okay.
I think I really like the movie. I don't think it's obviously a very deep movie. It's it really is just a pulp story. Like, heroic good guy beats up the bad guys, some violence happens, maybe there's a little emotional romantic drama.
They fuck.
They fuck, yeah. I do think it's interesting that Tom Cote doesn't actually like end up with Alan Aim. He kind of just like, I'll be there to save you if you need me, but I'm not like boyfriend material.
Well, because he knows he's not what's good for her. He cares about her a lot, but she's going places and he isn't.
He wants to leave, and she wants to stay, basically.
Well, yeah, but also
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's a case of he knows her career is going places, and he knows she's going to be something big, but like, he can't do that.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to be part of that.
He doesn't see himself as someone who can ever be, a good enough kind of person. He's what you call it, a punk, basically. He's just a punk.
And he knows that he'd only bring her down. And it was one of the better written moments, because it was the character at that point had just had a lot of self-reflection.
The like low middle portion is definitely very much spent just like trying to force through some of that like emotional stuff that's maybe not handled the best, because like he saves the day, he saves Alan Aim, everyone's fine, and like everyone's like, how dare you want to be paid, like, and like he's so annoyed with everyone that even like damn it, I'm blanking on her name.
McCoy.
Are you the sister or the? Oh, yes, McCoy.
McCoy is even like pissed off at him. It's like,
you're literally here for the money,
weird.
McCoy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like he's like, I'm gonna get your money later. It's like, oh, is that all you gotta say to me? It's like, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I guess it's nice that they patch things up and like continue to like go be punks together or whatever. Yeah. I mean, kind of my general thoughts on it.
I actually
fun. The sledgehammer duel's fun. That's all.
It's fun. It's dumb, and it's not the greatest choreographed, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings back memories of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with Dennis Hopper and Leatherface having a chainsaw duel.
I need to put Mandy.
I love Mandy.
Yeah, I was saying I need to put Mandy on one of the Retro Rank Relief things because it has absolutely nothing to do with video games. It's a fun movie though.
It's so good.
So yeah, Turbo.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I think it's a lot of fun. Is it deep? No. There's some real weird morality play in the middle too that I'm not huge on because it's kind of really dumb. But in general, I actually really like the assault on the biker bar. I think that scene is actually really good,
Yes.
even if it's a bit weird when a fucking motorcycle explodes because he shot it.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, the sets are really good in this, like really good. Because it has a very unique aesthetic and it goes in on it and it works out really well. And like the biker bar is a really good example of that. Even if it was, once again, it felt really weird listening to seeing a woman strip to fucking rockabilly.
Yeah.
She wasn't even in tune to it. She was just doing her own thing.
She was having a time. Holy shit, she was into it though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think it's fun. But yeah, going to the morality play in the middle, that really bugged me. So basically the idea is that at the start of the film, Rick Moranis comes to him. I think it was no. Yeah, I think it was he goes to Rick Moranis, who happened to be in the same place, after hearing about the whole L name thing, and he's like, "Okay, I'll do it for you if you pay me." And Rick Moranis was completely fine with that. He didn't give a shit. He just wanted L name back. I completely forget his character's name, so I'm just gonna keep calling him Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
Rick Moranis is like a shockingly yeah, he's an asshole, but like in terms of an actual character, he's like, yeah, no, pay you. Yeah, you're going to be doing some dangerous thing. I'm going to give you money for this to like do this.
Weapons and ammunition cost money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know the last name was Fish. I don't remember the first name.
It's
Billy Fish?
I think that was it, Billy Fish.
Yeah, I think it's Billy Fish.
Yeah.
Either way, Rick Moranis. But yeah, no, and so like he had the main character at this point. Ellen Aim was an ex of his. He had nothing to do with her. He straight up left town and had disappeared for a while and came back. 2 years, yeah. Wasn't he in the military or something like that?
Yes.
He went to the military in that period, I think.
Yeah, both
Yeah.
McCoy and Cote were in the military.
And he comes back and just everyone expects things, I guess, to go back to being how they were, even though they aren't. And so after he saves Ellen Aim, Ellen gets really fucking angry at him for asking for money to save her. Which, like, you can have both. It's okay. But she gets really fucking angry about it. It's super weird. And then they fuck anyway.
They fuck because he throws down the $9,000 and
Literally
takes the $1,000 and gives it to McCoy.
Yeah, he threw $9,000 in Rick Moranis' face. Rick Moranis, though, was perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
He was completely chill with it. Up to that point. Like, giving the money and everything. Rick Moranis didn't give a shit. Which... But yeah, so everyone's giving him shit for that. And like, he did have problems, sure, but that was like not the big one. But yeah, no, in general, I thought it was pretty solid. The romance was really weird, and I felt like it was kind of awkward, though I feel like it ended pretty well. And McCoy is also a weird beast, because, and I appreciate it, she has no interest in the main character, and repeatedly states that. And he's fine with that. They're both accepting of it. They're both they're buddies. They're good buddies who love murder.
so.
And originally...
Yeah, I was going to say, so I was wondering if we should bring up a little bit of trivia regarding McCoy.
Yeah, so McCoy was originally meant to be cast as a man, but they really liked the actress's performance so much that they cast her as it instead.
I do have a fun little bit of trivia because I found something that actually goes a little bit more in depth with what the original character was as soon as I could figure out where it went on this page.
Find it, you little bitch.
Essentially, the character was supposed to be it listed as a Hispanic character named Martinez. Oh yes, part of McCoy was originally to be a Hispanic male, according to this, named Mendez, with Edward James Olmos considered to play the part, which that would have been interesting. It's because apparently there was a lot of bigger names associated to that character and also to Tom Cote. That apparently Tom Cruise was brought up to be it potentially.
No, it wouldn't have worked.
Let's see. It was Tom Cruise, Eric Roberts, Patrick Swayze supposedly was brought up to be. That would be interesting.
And instead, the guy who played Cote would later go on to star in, well, not star, but play a part in basically every Uwe Boll film.
So that's actually a funny thing, because another little bit of trivia, and actually is kind of a thing that a lot of people I've noticed had problems with. Michael Paré, who is the person that played Tom Cody, apparently this was like one of his first movies, and actually he was super not used to working on a large set, so he was actually getting like super like frustrated with development, because also apparently Rick Moranis was heckling him the entire time. And yeah, like the writer apparently said that his performance was like what he thought was one of the weakest parts of the film. And also Walter Hill never worked with Michael Paré again. Rick Moranis also apparently hated working on the set because the director said that he couldn't ad-lib anything. Which also makes sense on why Rick Moranis' character is like he is.
And why his dialogue is super stiff, yeah.
Yes.
Shocker.
Yeah, no, that clears some things up. Like, I honestly think the stiff dialogue works in the film's favor, personally, but...
It fits the aesthetic, yeah.
Also, like, apparently that there's a little bit, like, apparently in the last fight scene, Tom Cody in, like, one of the original drafts was to pull out a knife and kill Raven.
Holy shit!
Again, we're just learning that, yes, the Final Fight developer just, like, there. That is our main character. Just sell that. It's like, yes.
Also, another thing, because I know we've mentioned the look for Hagar and also Cody's last name. Also, I believe the Final Fight developers mentioned that Raven's look specifically was put on, I think it was Belger, who was like the first boss of the Mad Gear game or gang. I can't remember because also I'm not super familiar with Final Fight. But yeah, there's also that reference there. But they didn't do that. One, I think they just didn't like it, but also to get a lower age rating.
That makes sense.
There was also another draft that had 2 different songs, more dialogue, and more backstory for like what the, like lore. Also a different Sledgehammer fight. So yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Torpo?
I mean, honestly, as I said, it's a good movie. Music numbers really good. Nowhere Fast is fucking incredible. It's so fucking good. Oh my god, Nowhere Fast is so good. I may have been listening to it in the background this entire time, on and off. I've also been listening to the Proto Men. Don't judge me.
Yeah, I did put it in the little chat that we have. The poster for Streets of Fire and the album cover for the Proto Men Act 2 Father of Death, which basically are the exact same style.
But yeah, no, I very much recommend this film. Is it deep? Once again, is it deep? No, but it doesn't need to be, and it never tries to be. It knows what it is and tries to be that from start to finish, which is pretty neat action film.
Yes.
A lot of bloodless violence, though, which is always weird.
Yeah.
Especially with all the guns.
Yeah. I was going to say, this isn't that weird period where... This was pre-PG-13, wasn't it?
Maybe? I think so.
Because when did Temple of Doom come out? The fact that movie... That's the same year, so maybe this would have been... It would have been around the same time, so... Yeah. I don't know if that could push it to R. Because I'm just thinking of the knife scene. I don't think that could push this to an R, but...
No, they're probably playing it safe.
Probably, yeah. But yes.
But yeah.
What
are your thoughts, Lolo?
I really like this movie. As people mentioned, it is not exactly the deepest movie. It is just a fun movie. Also, I incredibly appreciate the music. As a personal note, because as we mentioned, the song Nowhere Fast and also the ending song Tonight is What It Means to Be Young Both of those songs were written by one Jim Steinman, and a bit of personal bit of me. One of the first albums that my parents like introduced me to as a kid was Meatloaf's "Bat Out of Hell." So Jim Steinman was a very influential bit of music, or was basically wrote that entire album. So his music had a very notable effect on my musical tastes. So watching this movie for the first time, I was like, holy shit, this is basically two Meatloaf songs. Although it's really it's Jim Steinman's songs, really, because the person behind it. Which you could definitely tell that from these two songs that Jim Steinman definitely has a style. Because then you think about, like, if you've ever listened to Meatloaf, particularly "Bat Out of Hell" is like a very clear example of that style. Another one that's not as well known that he worked on, although when you hear it, you can definitely tell. He did two albums for worked partially for two albums for Bonnie Tyler, namely.
Okay, can I talk about the most important piece of Jim Steinman lore?
Go ahead.
You see, he also wrote "Total Eclipse of the Heart,"
which was one of the Bonnie Tyler songs.
Yeah. Do you know what's special about "Total Eclipse of the Heart," Lolo?
The fact that it was for a musical about vampires.
Yeah.
It was for a Nosferatu musical.
Okay.
About vampires in love.
Yes.
Yes.
It's great.
It's so good.
These vampires are gonna fuck.
Jim Steinman's also not the only notable name on the soundtrack. There is a song that was written by Stevie Nicks, which is also very good. There's also, the song "I Can Dream About You," which is probably, I would say, the most famous song of this movie, even though I don't think it is. It's a very good song, but it's also weird to think that is from this movie. There's also some music from Roy Cooter. I was trying to think. Tom Petty wrote a song.
Yeah, no, this actually had a lot of big names behind the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the best part isn't just the people they had behind the music, it's the people they had doing the music. They picked the right people to put these songs on this movie. Like, it's just fucking phenomenal. The intro song, Nowhere Fast. It's a beautiful, just high octane intro to the movie.
It's still weird to me knowing that the intro of this inspired the intro of fucking Bubblegum Crisis.
Yep.
I was waiting for one of us to bring that up, because that is also just I see. You've just basically done everything you can to just not get sued.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was going to mention next is, yes, Bubblegum. The intro to Bubblegum Crisis, heavily inspired by this. Other things that were inspired by this there was a novel that seems to be called The City of Devils, that apparently one of the gangs in the disasters is like blatantly referential to the Bombers and the Blasters. And there's also the OVA for Red Photon Zillion, which is something that actually might show up in Media Delta someday. Zillion Burning Night. The story, the plot for it is basically the A plot of this movie, with the gang of the White Nuts, depending upon translation. It's supposed to be the White Knights.
White Nuts
turn into a band, and the girl of the group gets kidnapped.
I also want to say, going back to the music being done by all the right people, I keep making fun of the stripping to rockabilly, but that song is so fucking good.
Yeah, rockabilly's a really good genre.
It is.
Really is. And Reverend Horton Heat puts on a fucking fantastic show. But I don't think there's a bad song. I don't think there's thinking back to what we watched yesterday, I don't think there's a bad song on that soundtrack at all. There's not a moment during that film where I was like, wow, I don't want this song. I could get rid of this. No, they were all they were either like jams, or they just they drove that scene. You know what I mean? Like they pushed that scene in the right direction. And again, that start, the movie catches you with Nowhere Fast. It pulls you in, and it just says, pay attention because you're going to have a good fucking time. And you do. Like, the soundtrack to this film is its biggest strength.
Also, apparently, the song Sorcerer is a song that Stevie Nicks wrote. It was written in 1972. Back,
and once again,
go ahead. Back when she was with, the other, not sure, hold on. Yeah, back when Stevie Nicks was with her very infamous former husband, or I believe former husband? I think it's that Stevie Nicks' I forgot, because...
Didn't she marry...
I can't remember if...
Dude from Fleetwood Mac?
Yes, yeah.
Lindsey Buckingham.
Yeah, Lindsey Buckingham was in it. Apparently they were with a band that was... they were with they were a band before Fleetwood Mac, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that song's actually apparently old.
And I'm not a big Stevie Nicks fan. I don't like her voice, but like that song was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. If there's anything to take away from this, it's at the very least, if you don't watch the film, listen to the fucking soundtrack.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the only movie soundtrack I would absolutely put on my phone and listen to while I'm driving. It's such a good soundtrack.
See, I'd be tempted. Like, I want to put it on my car's thing, but I don't know if I want to get a speeding ticket. That's like, it's like one of those songs that's like, I like this song, but also maybe I shouldn't drive to it.
Yeah, let me tell you about my experiences with fucking wanking midnight music driving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or fucking synthwave. It does bad things to my brain.
Any song that drives me over 100 miles an hour without me paying attention is good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good feeling when a song gets you fucking pumped. Like Nowhere Fast.
Yes.
Like the other day, like not very many songs really get me like jazzed up. Like I like a lot of songs. I like a lot of music, but you gotta do a really good song to get me jazzed. And the other day, More Than a Feeling by Boston comes on, and I'm toe tapping, I'm slapping the fucking wheel, I'm mouthing the words because I've been not feeling super hot, so can't really sing like I used to. But like that's what this movie does to me. Like this movie makes me want to tap my feet and smack the wheel and just go along with the rhythm. Just I love it.
Once again, like for me, Nowhere Fast is a standout, and that song gets me fucking hype as hell.
Yeah. Also, fun fact about the soundtrack: the name of the movie, "Streets of Fire," came from the fact that originally the song "Tonight's What It Means to Be Young" was actually the song "Streets of Fire" by Bruce Springsteen that they couldn't get the rights for, and they had to replace the last moment with "Tonight's What It Means to Be Young," which I actually think is probably a better song.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So this was originally meant to be a trilogy, but it bombed so hard that never happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I'm kind of glad because I feel like this is one of those movies that if you tried to make a sequel of it, it would fucking suck.
Yep. Also, there is an unofficial sequel called Road to Hell, which is apparently very bad. It came out in 2008.
Yeah, that movie came out in 2008, so I wouldn't be shocked that, let's see, that's a, what, 20, like, oh my god, almost like 40-year difference?
That's a 24-year difference.
24. So yeah, like, I wouldn't be shocked if an unofficial sequel didn't do too well.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other thoughts, or we can go on to ranking this?
No, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
No, I'm sure we'll come up with something though.
We always do.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start talking about something as we rank, yeah.
Gosh.
They just never shut the fuck up about the music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a very good soundtrack. Anyway.
Goddamn good.
We are going to rank this using our 1 to 21 scale, with 1 being absolute as good as it can probably get, although maybe not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. 21 being very, very bad, like very hard to even ironically watch for any fun. It is just not a fun thing to do. Axe, is there what number are you thinking?
2.
2?
No higher, no lower. 2.
All right. Carnival.
2 or 3.
Okay. Risen.
3 or 2 as well.
All right. Torpo.
I was gonna say 3. I'd argue it's not quite a 2. Like looking at Alien and Aliens, and like, yeah, I really like the soundtrack, but there's a few too many like lulls and issues to really get me over into 2, personally.
Okay, so you're thinking just hard 3?
Yeah, just a hard 3.
Yeah. I had a 2. But now that I think about it, I think I think the 2 to 3 range is kind of where it's going to go. Let's see. Let's like look at 3 and then see if we need to bump it up. Because at the stuff we have at 3, we got Dirty Pair, Project Eden, Ghost in the Shell, the 1995 movie, and Road to El Dorado, which, I mean, I would definitely put it in the same category. It's definitely not going lower.
Yeah, it's not going lower.
No, definitely not lower.
I guess in that case, okay, let's just take a look at 2 and 3 as one similar unit. So in 2, we have, now that we've done the cleanup, Aliens, Commando, Hardcore Henry, Pat Labor, the early days, Pat Labor the movie, Secret of Nim, The Slayers, and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust.
I'm gonna say 3. Because I'm thinking more like that was a gut reaction because I really like this movie, and I don't feel like it. My reaction was entirely based on the soundtrack, though that did weigh heavily on it. But I have to agree with Torpid. The lull is a bit much, and it does honestly take away from the pacing of the film. The choreography not being all that great does kind of hurt some of the fights, especially. I mean, Sledgehammer fight's funny and all, but if you're not going to coordinate it right, it still kind of falls flat. And honestly, without the soundtrack, I mean, the plot doesn't really hold up too well. So I will say 3.
Okay. I also kind of thinking about those other movies, I would ask to also kind of knock mine down to 3. Because just looking at some of these, like I do kind of feel like as a whole, that Streets of Fire has a few too many weird things going on for it. Because one thing we didn't mention is this has some really weird cuts, like use of
really
the
fucking
editing.
weird cuts.
Yeah, I mentioned at the start, and I'm glad you bring it up. The editing in this movie was just, I want to say it wasn't good.
There are some particular moments, like especially when there's music tracks going on, that there are some really heavy cuts that can be very disorienting. And yeah, that's one thing to note. I'm kind of feeling 3.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't think it goes any lower than 3. And
Yeah,
definitely looking at the list here, it's like, yeah, 3 is a good solid spot for it.
Also, 2 has enough shit in it already. Yeah. So I think by virtue of probably just the fact that we all kind of mentioned 3, I think let's just play it safe and go with 3, which is still very good. That's still in the Mastercraft here. So yeah, it's still a very good movie. So content-wise, do we want to photophobia for the editing?
I would. It's
Yeah.
I don't think it's as severe as some of the other
I
ones.
wouldn't say it's like that, but it's very jarring.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't fully understand seizures and epilepsy, but I don't know if that exact flashing pattern it's at least common. The one that really got me was the cut to black, cut to black, cut to black, cut to black. Like that one actually made me have to turn away because it was a visual cut to black, visual cut to black. It was so quick that it actually I don't know how I felt, but I just had a weird feeling, so I had to look away.
Because I was taking a look to see if I had something that was more a general Because I have motion sickness potential, but I don't think that's
It's
it.
probably more likely to cause motion sickness than
that's...
anything. It was very jarring was the issue, not that was like super rapid. It was just jarring. They were really weird, rapid smash cuts.
All right, I will put an M then instead of a P. All right, so is there anything we want to call out while I prepare the fact that I know exactly what I'm going to put one of these? Is there anything you want to call out in music, cinematography, music, charm, cinematography, storytelling, action, and art?
The obvious one is obvious.
Yeah.
You better put a metal.
That
metal under music.
Well, I wasn't thinking of metal. I was thinking
Or trophy.
I was thinking fire, because this thing's like...
I will buy that. As the kids say, it's fire.
What do we put set design under? Is that usually art?
I think art is usually where that goes under.
Yeah, no. Set design absolutely needs another, like, thumbs up for, like, this set design is excellent.
I would also argue that charms are really good.
Yes.
One for this one. And yeah, God, Google Chrome screwed over some of the stuff in here, and it's throwing me off. Cinematography already mentioned that has some slight issues, although for the most part, it's not that bad. The action isn't bad; it just could be better. And the storytelling, I would also argue, is not bad. It just is basic. Yeas or nays? This movie is like only 90 minutes long, so it's a very good length.
Yes, it makes use of its pacing very well. I would imagine, like, made with abundant love is clear.
That
Made with abundant love, but I wouldn't say the pacing was good, because I feel like the middle of the film sort of...
Yeah, it goes in hard, and then there's just like, right after this weird lull in the middle where everyone's shitting on the main character.
They just don't know what to do after the rescue. The rescue's such a big thing, and then the movie's like, story.
Yeah. What was I going to put down for nay? I'll also look in the right set of charms. Pace, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, isn't the snail pacing?
Let me take a look to see. Nothing else is coming to mind. Because despite it being like a 50s thing, it's not that bad in terms of like age. Bouncing is good. Yeah, none of these are really... You know what? Rather than Made with Abundant Love, I feel like, because with the amount of production issues that went along, I don't know if I'd say Abundant Love is really one of them.
Yeah, apparently Simon thought the movie was absolute dog shit.
Amazing.
I think Just Plain Cool is a better thing for it, because it is just oozing with style.
Okay, yeah, that is a much better descriptor, because, it's right there.
Also, apparently, I didn't realize that the movie took place in Chicago, but it's like very obviously LA smoothed over to be Chicago.
Yeah. Well, they filmed in Chicago, apparently.
No.
Oh, wait.
No, they filmed in LA.
Oh.
No, that's not Chicago, trust me.
Very clearly, the Super Mario Brothers movie stole sets off of this one.
Oh, I was going to say, because I could have sworn that IMDb said that it was filmed in Chicago. Maybe the location thing in IMDb is actually... I don't know.
Yeah.
No, the movie takes place in Chicago.
This has filming location... IMDb... Okay. Oh, it has both Chicago and LA. Because it's listed... Okay. Well, whoever put in IMDb maybe was wrong, but whatever. It's fine. Also, I put in, I didn't mention it because I pre-filled it in. For genre, I put musical because I think this is about as close to a musical we're probably going to get, hopefully.
Until we do Cats.
God. We're doing the newer one.
I swear to God.
If you're going to make me do a musical, I'll make it painful for everyone.
Okay, but if you're going to do Cats, can we at least do Phantom of the Opera first so we can watch a good one?
Could I just not watch any music?
I mean, that's
just like... tap out.
That's the other one. That's the other thing. It's like
musicals are where I draw my line.
All right.
First media delta to not feature Torpid Typist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's until we do like Das Boot. Or
Oh dear God, are you really considering
no,
Das
Lord no,
or Das Boot? God no.
Lord no.
Why would
Four
we do
fucking
Dust?
hours long.
We're not that bad at. We watch bad things, but we're not gonna watch Dust Boom. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I'll rip my own eyes out. Fuck it.
All right. Anyway, yeah, I think that is good for Streets of Fire. It's a very good movie, although have some minor flaws. But a very good soundtrack.
Really awful production. Really awful.
Yeah. So, before we head out, X, is there anything you want to plug?
Yes, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network and your local ASPCA. Please adopt, don't shop.
All right. Carnival.
Just your local bail or mutual aid fund.
Risen.
What they said.
Torpo.
Twitch.tv/Torpotypist at Torpotypist on Twitter. And I would like to plug... I got nothing.
I'd like to plug the holes in my suits from the money that I should be getting for doing the rescue.
Yeah.
I'd like to plug the horrible holes in the script from the awful writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All
Like
right.
the holes that keep me from going nowhere.
Really quick. So when you mentioned the rated R thing, do you want to know why it was threatened, like at risk of it?
Was it the fact that it was cop cars being destroyed?
No. It was apparently I said the F word a number of times, and also during the stripping scene, the lady removed her top.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you do see
Ooh.
titty a couple times during that scene.
I don't know if you definitely see ass. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
But also, this
Well,
is
you don't actually see titty.
is
Yeah,
that.
it's very brief, but she does show a little bit of titty.
To be fair, though, this was the era of the PG-13 having a lot different things than we have now. Because if you remember things like 16 Candles, there's very prominent titty in that, and that's PG-13 or PG.
But yeah, so this is the
Spaceballs.
inspiration. But yeah, this is the inspiration for Final Fight and Streets of Rage, and that's all you need to remember.
Yep. Okay. So next time, we are kind of strapping back into anime land, also back into series land, because we haven't done one of these in a while. We are taking a look at the mid-80s series City Hunter, which is a interesting kind of crime thing. I don't know how you describe City Hunter, because it's crime.
Case of the week.
Case of the week, but also kind of goofy. Also, maybe not as aged the greatest, but yeah. So yeah, that is
the main character is basically a fixer.
yes.
I look forward to hunting some city.
Anyway, that is what we're doing next time. So I hope you tune into that, because I'm sure it will be an interesting discussion.
Mm-hmm.
That may or may not be a part 2. We'll see. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Bye.
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 If you would like to see the list in which we have ranked every single thing we've done for Media Delta, you can go to r3.ldp.life in your browser. If you would like to watch the sister show that determines what could show up on Media Delta, that's Retro Rank Rhapsody, you can watch it live on Twitch at twitch.tv/LoloToPuzzlo or on YouTube at youtube.ldp.life. If you would like to discuss this episode with others, please join our Discord server by going to discord.ldp.life in your browser, which should give you a link. Thank you again for listening.